So we were live without knowing we were live. But anyway, now we are live, and we actually know we're live.
Oh, great. I was probably picking my nose or something.
And I'm Lauren Van Hamert from Belline to Broadway, and I am so excited because this is my first local interview without screens.
Yay.
So
Yay.
No Zoom.
You're back.
no Zoom.
No
Zoom
Zoom.
is the bane of all of our existence
Tough.
at this point.
It's tough.
If you have any questions for David and Susannah, David Henderson, I feel like neither one of you need any
Oh,
introduction.
please.
But
Oh,
David
I doubt that,
Henderson, Susannah Hough are co-artistic directors of Honest Pint Theatre, which is back.
Yes,
Yeah,
we are finally 2 years later. Yes.
And we're going to discuss that. But if you have any questions or comments, put them in the chat. We will get to them. How are you? How are you both?
I'll let you start. Yeah, go for it.
Well, okay. Yeah. Okay. Just, it's been an interesting dive back into the deep end. I freely admit, I feel unsteady, and it's a strange feeling to be back to just dive in so fast, because I haven't done anything in 2 years. David's been working, but I haven't, and so it's been an interesting adjustment, but exciting to be back finally. It's almost like you can't. Is this really it? I don't know. Like it's weird, but I'm glad. I'm glad.
Yeah, it is. It's an odd time, right? So just over a year ago, I did a show with Patrick and Jesse at RLT, and we still kept 6 feet apart when we did the show. We filmed it, and then I've done some other shows since then that have kind of followed every possible variant of COVID, which is interesting, but it's different when you're on both sides, right? So we're not just acting, we're producing this, and that is a whole other ball of wax, right? So you get into, when we first started the rehearsal process for this, the Wake County still had a mask mandate in place, right? So we had to do a lot of things around testing our cast, which we still do. We test our cast, we PCR test the cast twice a week, or once every 10 days, or whatever it works out to. But now you have to think about producing. But other than that, I'm great. It's like, those are the things that kind of keep us up at night, is figuring those things out.
New logistics we've never had to deal with before.
And let's face it, new expenses.
Yes. Yeah.
Because testing people is not cheap.
Right.
So I really want to talk about this. I think as the mask mandates have lifted, as theater has returned, I went to a show at DPAC. It was full. It looked like it was sold out earlier this month. I think people have it in their mind that, yay, the pandemic is over and the arts are fine.
Right.
Because they're back. And I really don't think people have any concept that for small theater companies like Honest Pint, this is going to be a very long time to get back on your feet. So I really want to talk about for a minute how the pandemic has affected Honest Pint. I know we had interviews during the pandemic, but here we are on the other side, and you're coming back, and you still need people to come out, buy a ticket, support the theater.
Yeah, it impacted us financially, of course. We had no revenue for 2 years, and we stopped collecting revenue. We didn't feel it was appropriate to ask for money if we couldn't produce.
Right.
So then we had to start revving that back up again. And, so that was new and different. And then just new costs. Finding a venue has been a new challenge for us. I'm having to pay
rent.
Yeah,
rent is a new
that we never had to pay before, and that's the bulk of our costs then and there. And so what that does is it restructures our budget for a show. And because we haven't been asking for money all this time, we're also not able to pay people what we would like to pay them at this point. We are still getting back up on our feet financially. And so everything has shifted for us. But the bulk of our money now is rent and licensing and all that.
I was going to say licensing is another issue.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
It's
gone up. So today I was checking. So Small Mouth Sounds, which opens Friday.
We're going to talk all about it.
But
get your tickets.
When we got the license for the show, it was $100 a show. So that's what we pay now. today I was doing something and I went on, the license for the show now has gone up. It's $130 a show.
Mhm.
We're still paying the $100, but yes, licensing is a huge piece of it. And then if you want to license it for streaming rights, it goes up exponentially. Like I still am not 100% sure licensing organizations have really caught up with what streaming theater is and what smaller companies can afford to do. But yeah, we've seen a lot. I mean, in 2 years of no revenue, you come out, and we are strongly committed to making sure everybody that's involved with our shows makes money, from assistant stage managers, directors, cast, everybody gets paid. And like Susannah said, when a third of your budget all of a sudden shifts into a rent situation, which we don't begrudge paying rent. I mean, let's be real clear. We're not saying we don't want to pay rent, but it is a big expense now. And it does affect like the ability of the size of a stipend that an actor may get or that a stage manager may get. So we want to get back to the point where we're able to pay people for their time in a way that is worth it to them,
Right.
It's been an interesting time. And streaming is all over the place. The quality of streaming, a number happened to be one of the best things I think I saw over the pandemic that was streamed from a local theater. But it's all over the place streaming.
It
so
is.
That's another expense, because not only is it the licensing, but it's the equipment to do it.
Correct. It's like we were talking about the podcasting and stuff, is like, the way they did a number, which I thought was beautiful. Not every theater has the ability to create something that with the equipment, the lighting and everything, and make it look like that. So it's a big burden.
It's a lot. It's a lot. So support, I say it all the time, but support local theaters, support your local artists, because I think there's so many people who love the arts, who love theater, but just don't think about the financial impact and don't think about the expenses. They come to a show, it's done, it looks effortless, which it should, but it's not effortless.
Well, one of the things we like to do in our newsletters that we send out is let people know what's going on other places and let people know how to buy tickets to those other things, right? Is that if RLT, TIP, Interact, Playmakers, all of these other organizations, if they succeed, Justice Theater Project, Pure Life, if they succeed, we succeed. Like if people are aware of all that's going on, then maybe they're aware of Honest Pint and they go, oh, let's buy a ticket to see that. So it's
the other thing I think the pandemic did for us, though, is I think it really brought the theater community, the producers. I think the community was, the artists, we've all been a happy community for the most part, but I think the theaters really had time, the artistic directors had time to connect with one another, because I feel like there is this community of theaters now, artistic directors, executive directors, artists, who really are bonded in a way that they weren't prior to the pandemic.
We definitely talk more.
Oh, we do. We
we
absolutely do. We probably always considered ourselves friends, but actually we never had time to spend together. And now I think we also all have a lot more empathy for each other because it's been such a hard struggle the last 2 years. And so we're all like, I got your back. I love you. What can I do for you?
And you start to realize, the struggles that you and I have in this venue, in a small nomadic theater space, are slightly different, but not drastically different than the Playmakers issues or NCT. Like everybody has the similar issues, just on a different level. And how are you problem solving this, or how are you and that's been really helpful.
And we've been able to talk to each other via Zoom on a regular basis, which has been a godsend for all of us, because if nothing else, like we would always have these structured, these are the agenda items, and all it turned into is, I feel awful today. This is so hard. I don't know what I'm doing.
How do we do
but
this?
It's good to have people to commiserate with, because nobody wrote a handbook on how to survive a pandemic, much less how to survive a pandemic with an arts organization.
Right.
Small Mouth Sounds was the show that, had you started rehearsals?
We were on the verge. We'd had a pre-production meeting.
We were this close. We were literally going to start. I got married end of February. The world shut down March 13th.
I was in LA.
You were in
doing
LA.
a show.
She was coming back, and we were going to start rehearsals.
And then the next week we were supposed to start.
So this is a show, I want you to give us a synopsis, but coming back to the stage, does it feel different?
Oh,
Is there a,
yeah. Mhm.
I almost feel like there would be a gratitude, a graciousness that coming back, it just is so much more meaningful.
The premise of the play itself resonates far
More now, yeah.
than it did 2 years ago. I mean, we chose that play through the lens of the Trump era, and sorry, but we did, and all the awful stuff that was happening in the world. We didn't know this pandemic was coming when we chose this play. But oh my God, every word in it now, you just feel it so much more deeply than you did 2 years ago.
And it really is a play about connection and how we connect and
It's
that desire to connect.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's also about sitting with your pain.
Yeah.
It's about understanding that external, things aren't going to get you back to your centered, happy, okay place. You can only find that inside. And it's not just like, what is the meaning of life? But
Right.
it's these 6 people in search of meaning in their lives because everything is so messed up
And
for them.
they've run from it to a
Mhm.
certain degree
They
to
have.
come to this place. There's 6
Mhm.
of them, and it's a silent retreat.
Mhm.
So when you look at the script, you can read the script in like 10, 15 minutes. I
Mhm.
mean, it's 41 pages long.
But it's not even.
But
Like, that's even including the character
that's
descriptions.
the character descriptions and everything,
It's
right?
not the text. Yeah.
So there's a lot of silence from us
Mhm.
on stage. So as actor and character, you're sitting in this silence, telling this story of a character on a journey that the audience may or may not know anything about because you never speak what Bess Wall has written in the character descriptions. Like my character description is a half page long.
Mine's a page.
But it lists specific things
Mhm.
that are never mentioned in the play.
Right.
So that's the journey that I'm on. But
Mhm.
you watching it, because I never speak that, might see a totally different journey. You may impose your own journey onto my interactions
Yeah.
with Susannah or my interactions with other
Mhm.
characters in the show.
Mhm.
And the teacher in the show is a great role and is kind of the guide, is the one that
She's the
speaks the
guru.
most. She's the guru, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that she says early on is that you have to think of this retreat as a vacation from yourself. And
because after you're done, you don't ever have to go back
correct
to where you were.
But the
It's a
question,
choice.
and the question is, do we go back?
Do we want to go
Do we
back?
go back?
Do we
Do we want to go back to where we were?
And how do you go back to where we were, knowing where we've been?
Mhm.
Like, I think that's the thing that the characters go through is that, wherever you go, there you are.
Mhm.
We've been through a lot in 2 years. And would I love to go back to 2 years ago where things were normal? Normal? Maybe. But there's a lot of things that happened in the 2 years that I think benefited everybody. We slowed down. We lived more in the moment. We as actors, we went through a lot. We couldn't work, right? There was no theater, not a lot of theater happening, if at all. But you had time to spend with family, friends, loved ones, and things like that. The world slowed down. If you asked me 2 years ago what I was doing in 3 months, I could tell you. 6 months, I could tell you. You ask me today, I go, well, I think in 3 months I want to do this. Like, we're not rushing through our lives in a way. And I think that's what this play's great, because we don't get to rush through it. We go on and we live and sit in this stuff. And at the end, we choose whether or not we want to go back to the lives we have or not. So,
and regarding your question about the connection, it is also about that. There are characters who deeply desire to connect better, but don't know how.
The other thing with a play like this, and the other thing that has changed since COVID is the care that we not that theaters didn't care about their people before, but I think the care and the space we give people to have these mental health breaks is good. To have these health breaks, if they we talked about before we went on air, You went on when you had a fever.
Yeah.
You went on when your father. I don't know that we're in that space now where the show must go on attitude is changed a little bit.
Mhm.
I think we saw through that was really harmful
Yeah.
overall. I did read something on Twitter today that somebody, an actor, had quoted that was saying that, he was so happy that the pandemic taught us everything about how theaters could be kind to artists. And then he goes, and then I went through Tech Week. And I think that the companies that are figuring out how to take care of their artists through the process, whatever that may be, they're the companies that I think are going to survive long term. And we're still, you still hear that in New York and places like that, money is a driving factor, right? So show must go on, but really show must go on because money must be made. And I think that maybe they're learning that, yes, the show must go on, but we must have procedures in place so when the show goes on, it's not at the expense of Susannah's health or Lauren's health or David's health or anybody's health, that we have procedures and processes in place that you're going on. I mean, if you read, there was in the UK, some guy stepped into Les Mis and he hadn't done the show in 4 years. They called him up and said, "Can you come in and play Valjean?" And he goes, "I guess so." And it was a totally different production. Like, you know what I mean? It's like it was a different stage.
Well, and we talked about Hadestown. They brought people back.
Right.
Left the show.
Left the show because they need a person.
They need a body to put in there.
And I think we've always tried to make a conscious effort of not, I don't want to say over rehearsing, but I want to make sure that we give the actors time away.
Like, don't burn them out.
Don't burn them out. And I think it's more important now because I think we're all still bearing the burden of 2 years. And therefore, when you come to rehearsal, we want it to be a safe space. We want you to be able to create. We want you to be able to feel comfortable in this space, but also we need you to go home and sleep.
Yeah.
We need you to get rest.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard when you're the people in charge to actually allow that for yourselves too. Yeah. I mean, like a couple days ago, I almost took a mental health night. Really.
Yeah.
I was in my kitchen crying. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm the person in charge. I could call it if I want to.
Yeah.
But I didn't because I knew everyone was depending on me. But I have to learn. It's like you're retraining those old habits. And that's another thing we address in the play. It's like your habits, whatever the narrative you've written for your life and your habits, you can choose to let them go.
Yeah.
The choice is yours. If that's what you want, you can avoid pain, but you can let go of old habits that don't work for you anymore. Right. So we have to teach ourselves to be kind to ourselves too, while also being leaders and in charge. And it's tough. I'm not going to lie. People bring their stuff to you and you have to deal with it. And it's tough. It's really tough.
It is very, it's a very emotional time. And I think it's not like muscle memory. It's not like riding a bike.
No.
The
whole re-entry thing.
Right.
No, it's not. Nobody knows how to do it. Right?
Yeah. What's going on?
I mean, like, and do you wear a mask? Do you not wear a mask? Do you do all these things?
Taking care of each other. Yeah. I mean, like we struggled with that too. We wore masks until a week ago.
Yeah.
And there's so much mixed messaging coming from the CDC, and things are state by state and area by area, county by county. So
sometimes room by room.
The guidelines aren't
It's
even that clear on what you're supposed to.
We're making up our own to keep everybody safe and comfortable. And we had to honor everybody's needs. And we want to do that. That was never a burden, but it was just fascinating to rehearse a show where the characters communicate non-verbally wearing a mask. But that just shows you what a great cast we have, because it just was seamless. It was like easy. I was really surprised by that. I thought we were going to struggle with that more than we did.
Steve, thank you for watching. And Steve said he's always happy to see the art that Susannah and David create. And I think we all are very excited that Honest Pint is back, because I think the shows you choose challenge us and make us think, and they're not easy. They're not gimmies.
Right,
yeah.
And I like that. That's what
I think this is a great example of that. I think that more than anything right now, because it is so much done in silence. And really it's your journey. It's like watching a mirror, if you will. You get to watch Susannah and Barbette, their relationship and you get to make that whatever relationship you want. We know what that relationship is because we read it and rehearsed it, but you guys don't.
Yeah.
And I think you could come and see the show multiple times and watch different characters and have a totally different experience.
Yes.
Because a lot happens
It's like choose your own
simultaneously.
journey.
Like
They do.
there are several scenes where we're in our cabins where we're all doing things at the exact same time. And you can choose to watch this cabin or this cabin, and whatever cabin you watch, you're going to take that story. Like you could literally follow one group through the whole show.
But see, I love that. That to me, that's theater that challenges you, and theater that is timeless, when you can come back and see it again and get something totally different out of it. So I love that. I do want to talk a minute about licensing. You just announced, I guess, the next play. Is it the next play, the Nia Vardalos Tiny Beautiful Things?
Yes, we did.
Okay, so what took so long to get that license?
I don't even know.
David's like, no.
We've been trying for 3 years.
It's almost 3 years. It was
Almost
almost 3 years that we've been talking to them. We've written. Actually, we've written the Playwright. We wrote the publisher. We went through the licensing, and they kept denying us and denying us and denying us and denying us. So it's a show that we've wanted to do for years. It's a great show. Susannah's wanted to do it for a long time. It's a perfect show. So we got lucky, right? Something changed. I don't know what it is. Again, no rhyme or reason. There's shows that we apply for the rights for, and you hit submit, and 10 seconds later you have a license. Then there's shows that you submit and they go, it'll take 4 to 6 weeks. And in 6 weeks, they write you back and say, congratulations, or we are not going to give it to you. Try again in 6 months or something like that. And they never tell you why. They never give you anything. So
the other piece that I wanted to, and I'm very excited. I think Nia Vardalos is a genius.
Great.
And
And Cheryl Strayed.
Cheryl Strayed. Yeah, the book
and
is
so
great.
I'm very excited about that show as well. So, I feel like things are getting back to this new normal.
Well,
We
we're
hope.
inching. We're inching
inching.
our way.
Yeah.
It's baby steps for sure.
We're trying. And, and we've got our Kafka show that we commissioned. It's a musical. Tamara Kassane has written the play, and Matthew Hager has written the music for it. And we're going to premiere selections of that this summer. So we're really excited about that. And then excited about where that goes in a year, because it's something that is ours, meaning it's the communities. Like it's created right here by artists that live right here. So I'm excited to see what that looks like.
And Tamara is brilliant.
Oh,
she's
wonderful.
As talented as she is gracious and wonderful.
Correct.
So she's just a wonderful human.
And the show she's written is great.
Yeah.
And Matthew, the same thing. You can't find a kinder person.
Oh boy.
And he's written some great music.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I think that it gives people an opportunity to see the process. You know how I think people say, oh, theater's back, blah, blah, blah. I think also sometimes people think that theater just magically happens. Like we order some scripts, we get them, we get in a room, we talk for a few days, and then all of a sudden lights down, lights up, play happens, lights down, you go home. And it's not that way. There's this whole process that I don't think people fully understand. I shouldn't, and I don't want to say fully understand, but there are people who don't really get what goes into
curtain back and showing the development process, which is a piece of this that not a lot of people are privy to.
No, and when you look at how long it takes to get certain shows to the stage, I mean, Hamilton was what, 7+ years or whatever, and some shows are 5 years, and we're going to have a version of this in a year, but it might not be the version that is the same version 5 years from now, right? We'll learn as we go.
Which is also exciting for the audience, because you can say you saw it when.
Yeah. That's what we hope.
You were there when.
That's what we hope.
During COVID, as if COVID wasn't enough to deal with, we also had this reckoning of white American theater, which I'm working with a group of cohorts now who hate it when I say that. So I'm going to have to find some other way of saying this, because they're like, the reckoning is inching closer, but it's not really happened. So I feel like with Honest Pint, And with a lot of the local theaters, regional theaters, you all have been inclusively casting. You have these equitable standards. There's DEI. Before it was trendy, there was DEI being practiced. But has your selection of shows, or the way you cast shows, or your thoughts about shows that you want to produce, has that changed since this, for lack of a better word, reckoning of white American theater since George Floyd died?
Yeah, I don't think it
Or was murdered.
cannot change, right? I think it has to change. And, you know, I think our cast for Tiny Beautiful Things, Small Mouth Sounds, is an extremely diverse cast. We're very lucky in that sense, right? But that's the tip of the iceberg, right? So I think that what we have to do is that it's really 10% of what you see on stage, right? The other 90% is, what do you do off stage? What are you doing to engage yourself in the communities, and I'm using that broad term, that help build access to theater and things like that. And those are things that we are really trying to work on now. It's just the two of us, right? And we're trying to figure out how all of that, not figure it out, but you know what I mean, how we incorporate all of that into what we already truly believe and want to practice. So it is, you can't not change in the midst of that. But if you look at the pipeline for American theater, and I say this a lot, is that everybody looks like me. Like the pipeline is designed to create, not designed, but the people that the pipeline puts out are white, male, and
white cis males.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and the average ticket buyer in America is a 62-year-old white female, right? So the pipeline has to change. I mean, you know, like Patrick Torres, who is, I just love Patrick and does a great lot of work. He's teaching and doing a directing class right now for BIPOC directors, and they've got an LGBT stage management class. And one of the things we were talking about in our artistic director meeting was, give us the names of those people, right? So that we can use those directors and give them, not give them up, that sounds terrible, but provide opportunities in a way that they come out of a class.
Partner with them somehow.
Yeah.
You know,
it's opportunity and access.
Yeah.
It's opportunity and access.
That's right.
We have that with our critics cohort too.
And I don't think any theater can sit back and say, we've got it all solved and we've got it all right. I mean, you know, 90% of it is listening, or maybe 100% of it is listening, you know, and responding in a way that moves things forward and doesn't put us backwards.
And I think, you know, one thing I've learned with our critics cohort that we're working with is it's not just listening, but it's being able to not be reactive to what people are saying to you. It's really processing it and taking it in the spirit that's being given to you, and then making changes. I kind of said, we got grant monies, and I was talking to our funder about this. It's a very off-kilter thing. You feel very off-kilter. So anybody who's telling you that they have all the answers and they're getting it right is probably not. It's the people who are feeling off-kilter right now, who are really doing the work and trying to figure it out.
And I think a lot of companies are off-kilter as they try to figure it out, right? Is and so I think there's a fear of getting it wrong.
Oh yeah.
Right? Is like,
absolutely.
What if we make a misstep?
Yeah.
And I think you have to be able to say, we are going to misstep. We're going to make a misstep here, but acknowledging that and growing and moving forward.
My friend Paul, who has been in so many productions of In the Heights, regional productions, is directing In the Heights over at Mill Mountain Playhouse.
Oh yeah, in Roanoke, yeah.
And they just had to issue a statement because they, you know, and I was like, Paul's done 6 incarnations of that show. He knows that show inside and out, and yet, you know, still, like you said, it's just owning it and taking accountability and being accountable to the audiences you're trying to reach and engage. So it's kind of it's an interesting time.
Very, very much so. And I think you said a great word. You said access. And I think that's also really important, is providing access to theater. Theater is not all theater, but by nature, a lot of it is is not accessible to most people from a financial standpoint or from a location standpoint or whatever. I think streaming, one of the values of streaming theater is it did provide access in some way to people who couldn't come to the theater. So,
but now we're getting back to in-person
we
theater,
sure are.
and people need to buy a ticket.
Yes,
and
they
people
do.
need to
Yes.
support local artists.
Please.
First of all, there's nothing like the live experience, but you know, people I think also got complacent because you could see a lot of streaming theater for nothing or next to nothing. And now with rent and the expenses of putting a show on in person, people have to understand and pay and
Right.
support local artists. And I certainly feel like the regional theaters here, like Honest Pint, like RLT, you don't have to go to DPAC to see a show. There's so much good theater.
Right.
Yeah.
And I love DPAC. So
Oh, yeah.
Right.
don't get mad at me.
No.
I love DPAC,
Mhm.
but you don't have to go that route to see good theater because
Right.
we are blessed in this area to have so much rich theater.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's buy local, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's the key.
That's
is
right.
that
You're
they're-
supporting local people, local artists, local businesses when you
Yeah.
see, you know.
There is so much happening in the world. You can't escape it.
No.
A theater was bombed this afternoon. I got the notification on my phone as I was driving here. When people come to this show, what do you hope that they get out of it as either an escape or a way to process what's happening?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're witnessing 6 characters trying to do just that. And, you know, so we hope that the audiences who come to see it also feel that and perhaps sit with that for a moment. Because, you know, when they hear the voice of the teacher with her wisdom coming through, you know, I hope that audience members are also listening and taking heed of what she tells these characters.
And you know,
to do.
it can be uncomfortable.
Mhm.
You know, people don't like to sit in solemn silence for long. And there are moments in the show where people don't
Awkward.
speak for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And how do you engage in that?
Mhm.
You know, do you engage, or do you let your mind wander off to what's going on in the world?
Mm-hmm.
And if you do let it wander off, how do you come back and re-engage?
Yeah, it's
And
like
so-
meditation.
yeah.
I was going to say that
Yeah.
it's almost like being in a meditative
Yep.
state, which
Very
is
much
why
so.
I feel like theater is my sanctuary, because
Yeah.
it's the one time in my life that I'm completely disconnected from my phone, disconnected from whoever I came with.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a solitary,
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
and I love it so. So I hope everyone will see this show.
We do too.
I've put the banner
Thank
at the
you.
bottom of
Thank
the
you.
screen,
Thank you.
honestpinttheater.org for your tickets. I know people probably will have questions about this, so I do want to address this before we go off camera. What are you doing to keep audience, because we're all over the place on the mask
Yeah.
mandates and the
Yeah.
vaccine mandates. What are you doing to keep audiences? We talked a little bit about what you're doing to keep your actors safe. What are you
Yeah.
going to do to keep audiences safe?
They have to be masked at all times.
We're in at Pure Life. Their policy is masks, and we believe that that's the right thing to do.
Mhm.
And so we're asking them to wear masks when they come in, and in for the duration of the show. There's no intermission.
Yeah.
It's about an 90-minute show, maybe 100 minutes.
Yeah.
Mm.
No intermission, no pre-show snacking and drinking, and no after party opening night,
Yeah.
which is sad for us. But we just need people to exit the building, and they're going to want it. They're going to want to go outside and take off their masks when it's over. We understand that.
And that is okay.
Mhm.
But I will say I feel safer at the theaters I've been to than I do in most grocery stores.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah.
I think coming to the theater is a safe thing to do, and most of the people involved in the theater and most audience members. I don't know if there's any statistics on this, but we're the people who are getting vaccinated and boosted and
Yeah.
who wear masks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you for being here.
Thank
I'm
you,
Thank
so
you,
happy.
Lauren.
Thank you so much. It's great to see you.
I'm so
Thank
happy.
you.
Good to
There's
be
no
with you.
screen between
I
us.
know.
I know.
I feel missed this. I've missed this.
Yeah.
But and thank you all for watching. If you tuned in late, you can watch this from the beginning on our Facebook or YouTube page. As soon as we go off air, I'll also post it on our website and you can see it there. And the show runs this week. It opens this weekend
This Friday. Mhm.
and runs through the end of the month.
Through
April
April
2nd.
2nd.
Yep.
Saturday night, April 2nd is our last show.
Yeah. We're doing Friday, Saturday, Sunday this week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday the following week, and then just Friday, Saturday. We're done.
Well, support local theater, support your local artists. Thank you both for being
Thank you.
here.
Thanks, Lauren.
Thank you for watching, Pam and Steve. And I will see you at the theater. I always say that. So, and Kim's seen the show for Behind a Broadway.
Yeah,
that's
she-
right.
So people are like commenting, but thank you all for watching.
Thank you.
And we will see you hopefully this weekend.